Hey, what's up guys, my name is Trivix, and in this video we're going to be potentially answering the famous question in Valorant. Which is better, the Vandal or the Phantom? Let's get into it. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the stats of both weapons, which is better for different playstyles, and which is better in different situations. So if you're here for the short answer, ultimately it's based on personal preference. We can take a comparison at CSGO, and we notice that the Vandal is more like the AK-47, and the Phantom is more like the M4A4. The Vandal has a deadly one-shot ability and does high damage but at a slower fire rate. The Phantom on the other hand is probably easier to control, but does less damage and will not one-shot or headshot. One of the pros about the Phantom though, it has a higher rate of fire and bigger magazine. This can contribute to easier recoil control and may save you in some situations when you need those 5 extra bullets. If you feel like you're a highly skilled aimer and you know how to click heads, I think the Vandal is the better choice for you. Before we head into the statistics of both weapons and what should be better in different situations, I do want to make a note. I don't think you should stick to one of these weapons. I think you should learn both of them and obviously see what fits better, but there are times where you may want to use one or another. As I said before though, the Vandal is probably better for higher skilled players, and for newer players including me, I do believe the Phantom is easier to use. Alright, so let's head into the statistics of both weapons. So recently, actually a few weeks ago in the 0.5 patch, both of these weapons were updated. So both of these weapons were actually buffed in the last patch, but I believe the Vandal got a better buff. So these are the changes that the Vandal got in the 0.5 patch update. The horizontal recoil was reduced by 15% while crouch and stationary. This was intended to be the case and now properly matches the crouch benefits of other rifles. The gun recovery time was reduced from 0.4 seconds to 0.375 seconds, and the tap efficiency was increased from 4 to 6 seconds. Now these are quite big changes, so let's run through them. So I think the horizontal recoil change may even change some Phantom players over to the Vandal. Basically what this means is you're going to see easier spray control, which was superior on the Phantom before. This is one of the things that the Vandal was lacking before the 0.5 patch, but now it has this, so I think this is a big change for the Vandal. So even though the Vandal is designed for tapping and bursting at medium to long ranges, it now has the ability for easier spray control at closer ranges. So let's talk about the gun recovery time. So it's been decreased from 4.4 seconds to 0.375 seconds. Now this basically means if you're going to spray transfer, or basically you shoot someone and you want to shift to another enemy, it will be easier to do so and your gun will take less time to recover from recoil. So the tap efficiency was increased quite a lot from 4 to 6. Now even before this update, the Vandal was very good at tapping. So for Vandal players that are probably used to tapping at long ranges, this is going to be a huge buff for them. So let's take a look at the updates to the Phantom. So Riot fixed an issue where the gun recovery time was higher than intended. So that's been changed from 0.55 seconds to 0.35 seconds, which means it actually now has a lower gun recovery time than the Vandal. The tap efficiency has also been increased from 3 to 4, which will definitely help the weapon. So the gun recovery time change is one of the biggest changes to the Phantom in Valorant so far, because many people will be spraying one person and then trying to shift over to another, and the gun recovery time was too long, so you'd end up being killed. This is probably why before this update people decided to keep spraying, so they try to spray transfer onto the next enemy. But now what this change allows you to do is you can be shooting one person and then you can stop and change to another person without a high gun recovery time. So let's look at the increased tap efficiency from 3 to 4 on the Phantom. Now this is actually the old tap efficiency of the Vandal, which some players were pretty fine with. So if you're using the Vandal for tapping in the beta, then you may find the Phantom quite similar to that now. Obviously the Phantom still doesn't do enough damage to one-shot headshot, so you'll be bursting rather than tapping. So I just want to note another thing. In this patch, all the rifles actually got the gun recovery time buff. The gun recovery times were all lowered to about 0.35 seconds. So one of the most important things when you're shooting at someone in Valorant or you're being shot at is tagging. Tagging is the mechanic when you are being shot or you're shooting at someone, their movement will be drastically reduced, and this effect is very heavy in Valorant. So this basically means when someone is peeking, they're basically stuck there and they have to make a play. Some people like to peek and then go back into their cover, but this is harder to do in Valorant. With this in mind, you may want to use the Phantom because of its easier spray. Basically the Phantom is going to tag your enemies more, which will allow for easier kills as they cannot move. So now that we've looked at the stats, let's look at the more basic things with these weapons. A big thing to note is that the Phantom is better for spamming through smokes. This is because the gun has no tracing while shooting through smoke, so your enemies will not be able to identify where you are. With the Vandal, this is much harder to do because it has traces on your gun, and your enemies will be able to see where you're shooting from and they can shoot you back. So the Vandal recoil is much harder to control as some people have said, and when you're using the scope, it can be quite wonky. Overall, I don't recommend using the scopes on these weapons unless you're holding an angle because it does affect the rate of fire. I feel the scope is better on guns like the Guardian. So both guns are good on pretty much all maps, but I feel like the Vandal specializes in a few. I feel like the Vandal specializes on Haven because of the length of many angles. This is because the Vandal one-shots at most ranges, whereas the Phantom cannot do this at over 15 meters. So taking this in note, I feel like the Vandal is better for aggressive play. So in the new map Ascent, I feel like the Vandal is also better because of the large area in mid. So in one of Shroud's recent videos, he talked about this topic as well. I'll put a clip up on screen of what he basically said at the start.
Shroud, I've noticed a lot of pros using Phantom lately. Any reason why? It's a better gun. Simple. It's always been. Always will be. Although Vandal does have its situations. Both guns are very situational, right?
But to sum up what he said after that, he basically said that the Vandal is better for the attacking side. This is because you'll be taking more fights at range, and on the defensive side, the Phantom is better because you're taking more fights at shorter ranges. I hope this makes sense, and by now hopefully you've got an idea of which gun suits you more, but let's do a recap of this video. So I believe the Phantom is easier to use and it's better for newer players. This doesn't mean that pros can't use it, as we've seen them use it in many tournaments so far, and it was also mentioned in Shroud's clip. Ultimately it depends on the situations you're in, but I think the Vandal is better for higher skilled aimers and people who just like to tap and burst more at longer ranges. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.